So last thing for topic 1.4, we're going to look at writing and solving algebraic equations that have to do with our geometry concepts. So for numbers 10 and 11, or actually and 12, but 12 isn't as much of a word problem, it says write and solve an algebraic equation to find the measure of each angle based on the given description. So number 10 says the measure of an angle is 9 more than twice its complement. So you might remember doing some stuff like this in algebra. What I like to do with this is just make sure we know what we're looking at, what's important. The measure of an angle, you don't know what that angle is 9 more than twice its complement. So there's a few key things I see here. First of all, I see some important numbers, and this is something I do with my algebra students. Our important number here is 9, and then more, right? More means add. So maybe make a note that this means add. And then I see another important, what I call a math action word, and that's twice. Twice means you have to take something and multiply it by 2. And then its complement, that's a new vocab word that we talked about today. Remember, complement means two things add to be 90 degrees. So anytime you see that something is a complement, you know one angle plus another angle equals 90 degrees. So what I like to do with this is kind of give myself a little fill in the blank type situation and also draw a diagram to help me. So we know some angle plus some other angle is going to equal 90 degrees. Now, what might that look like? Well, a 90-degree angle could be like a right angle, right? But there's two angles here. It says because an angle is more than twice its complement, that implies that there's two of them. So I'm just going to kind of draw a little diagram here with two angles. I'm going to call one of them angle 1 and one of them angle 2. It doesn't really matter which one you call which. This is just so we can figure out what this might look like. So it says an angle, so either one you want, is 9 more than twice its complement. That means we're only given information about one of these angles. One of these angles is 9 more than twice the other one. So the other one, we don't know anything about it. And in math, when you don't know anything about something, assign it a variable. We're going to have to solve for it. So one of these angles, I'm just going to label as x. We don't know how many degrees it is. I'm going to call it x. We know the other one is 9 more than twice it. Twice means you're going to have to multiply it by 2. And 9 more means you're also going to have to add 9. So that means you're going to have to take 2 times whatever your other angle is and add 9 to it. Or if you prefer, 9 plus 2x. And now we can just take our information and fill it into our blanks. One angle is just x. We don't know anything about it. We know the other one is twice. So 2x and then 9 more, so plus 9. And now we can solve for x and figure out what each of our angles are. So I'm going to combine my like terms here. X plus 2x is going to give me 3x plus 9 equals 90. I'm going to subtract my 9 to get that 3x equals 81. And then I'm going to divide to get 27. And this is where the picture is kind of nice because you can see one of the angles is just 27. Right? So in a situation like this, how I would ask for this in a test is like, tell me what angle 1 is and what angle 2 is. And again, depending on how you labeled it, right, it could be different depending on the situation. But in this one, I'm going to say that the measure of angle 2 is 27 degrees because that's how I have it labeled in my picture. And then measure of angle 1 is going to be 2 more, 2 times it, plus 9. Or you could just take 90 minus 27, whatever you prefer for that. So that would, if I did just go ahead and plug it in here, so one of them is 27, the other is 2 times 27 plus 9, which is going to give me 63 degrees. So either way. Okay. And then number 11 says two angles form a linear pair. The measure of one angle is 4 times the measure of the other. So again, let's look at some important information here. First of all, it tells you straight off the bat that you have two angles. And these two angles form a linear pair. So think about our vocab today. Linear pairs look something like this. You're going to have your opposite rays, right? And then your other ray that comes out of it, because you're going to have your adjacent angles. So there's my two angles. They're forming a linear pair. And if you go back to your vocab, linear pairs are always supplementary, which means your one angle plus your other angle is always going to add to be 180. So I got all that just from the first sentence. So let's keep going now on to the second sentence. The measure of one angle is 4 times the measure of the other. So again, they're only giving me information about one of them. The other one, I don't know anything about. So the one I don't know anything about, I'm just going to assign X to it. It doesn't really matter which one you label. I'm labeling the smaller one because it's telling me the other one is 4 times it, which means it's probably going to be bigger. So some more important things here. 4 times, right, means multiply by 4. So if one angle is just X and the other one's 4 times it, we could call that 4X. And now I know one angle's 4X, the other's X. Altogether, they have to add to be 180. So I'm going to plug this into my little equation I made here. 4X plus X equals 180. 5X equals 180. And then divide to get that X equals 36. And that's actually one of your angles here, right? One of them is 36. So again, in this situation, it kind of depends which one you labeled as angle 1 and which one you labeled as angle 2. Just always see if it tells you like the smaller one is this and the bigger one is this, and just make sure you label it properly. I'm just going to say this one was angle 1 and this one was angle 2. So the measure of angle 1 here is going to be 36 degrees. And then the measure of angle 2 is 4 times that, which is going to be 144. And it's kind of easy to double check because you got to make sure they add to be 180. If they don't add to be 180, you did something wrong. And 36 plus 144 does add to be 180, so you know you're good. And then last one, number 12, find the value of the variables. You're given your two intersecting lines here. Couple things you should notice. You have two intersecting lines. That means you have your X shape, which means you're going to have vertical angles. And we have opposite rays, which means we're going to have linear pairs. Now, there is something like this on the test, and you do have to know, or at least there has been in the past. I guess it's not completely edited yet this year, but there has been in the past. So I'd be prepared for it. You're going to have to know how to set up an equation here, which means you have to either know what things add up to be or what's equal to each other, and you have to set up an equation. Now, a good rule of thumb is that variables that are the same should stay together. And if you take a look, here in this angle, you have a 2x plus 25, and then down here you have a 3x minus 10. Those both have x's, so maybe we can write an equation with it. And if you look, again, we have our X shape. That means these are vertical angles. If you folded this picture in half, these would line up perfectly, which means they are congruent, right? Vertical angles are always congruent. So let's set up an equation with that. 2x plus 25 equals 3x minus 10. I'm going to subtract my 3x over. That'll give me a negative x. Subtract my 25 over, that gives me negative 35. If you prefer to work with positives, then just do it the other way. So x is 35, and it doesn't say I have to plug it back in. It just says to find the value of the variables. But I still need to find y. So if you take a look across from it, y doesn't have anything there. We don't know what its vertical angle is, so I can't set it equal to anything. But I do have a linear pair right here. And I also have one here, whichever you prefer to look at. So if I can find what this angle is, I know these are going to have to add to be 180. So what I'm going to do is plug this in, figure this one out here. This is 2 times 35 plus 25. 2 times 35 is 70. 70 plus 25 is going to give me 95. So I know this angle, and therefore also this angle, just to note, is 95 degrees. So I know angle Y is going to have to be 180 minus that. So angle Y equals 180 minus 95, which is going to give me 85 degrees. Let me know if you guys need any help or have any questions.